The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Judy Butler with the Commercial Agency Division. I want to thank all of you for attending the webinar this morning, this afternoon, wherever you're at, to talk about our newest agency-focused protocol. This protocol includes background checks, or is aimed at background checks for any agent employee that would interact with our customers in the homes. This would include packers, helpers, salespersons, anyone on your payroll that would be entering your customer or your client's home. And I'm going to turn this over now to John Flanagan, who has done all the exhaustive research to bring us to this point. John?
Thank you, Judy. I'm joined here also with Jim Welch and Greg Cava, who I'm going to ask for input as we go through this. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending. It looks like a great turnout. What drove this whole background checks was the looking at the current environment and where we are in the competitive mode. It's a good business practice, I think we can all agree, to know who is going to be able to access our customers and their household goods in any given transit. We need to know who the people are who are coming into direct contact. In the old days, this was a much more loosely constructed thing. People usually went by word of mouth and generally knew who they were employing. But today, we're in a different environment. There is ample opportunity for customers to inquire, who is it we are sending into their homes? Who is it we're having handling their household goods? There's an accountability and responsibility on the part of the van line and our agents to make sure that we're only sending in the right people. We have received numerous requests from national accounts and even individual customers that they want to know what kind of background checks we have in place. It's a different world, and we need to react accordingly. We know that many of you are currently performing background checks, but we need to streamline this process to get reliability, consistency, quality, and accuracy, and be able to put that information in place in our system to know that all of our agents and all of our service providers have appropriately screened personnel going into the residence. So why should we do this? We want the confidence that we have every agent employee, from the sales rep to the packers to the loaders, anyone who comes in contact with the customer, that has a full background check against any criminal record that may be out there. We want to be able to prove to our customers that we truly care, that we're making it a safe environment for their families and their possessions. This is actually a benefit. We need to look at it that way. It's not simply another thing that we have to do. It is good business. It puts us on an equal basis with our competitors. As many of you know, several of the van lines rolled out programs similar to this over the last 3 or 4 years. We want to have a sense of trust with all of our customers. Our customers need to be able to come to us and say, and be able to be assured that we have put the right people in place. We have to look at the liability. If we send an unscreened person into a residence, the potential liability is enormous. We have to do our due diligence to make sure that we screen those personnel and are assured of their backgrounds. So we went through a very exhaustive screening process. We got proposals from 4 different vendors, and settled on HireRight Solutions as the designated representative for our background screening services. They are the most cost-effective, the most widely known, and a market leader. Additionally, they provide a high quality of service and a very thorough background check. It's also very easy to use. Everything is done online, and the agents will be able to access their individual accounts to enter employee information and obtain the background clearances online right at their own location. We think it's cost effective. Again, we received proposals by 4 different vendors, and this was by far the best value for the money. It is comprehensive. This current screen includes a 7-year criminal, felony, and misdemeanor search with an unlimited number of counties as revealed by the Social Security number trace on each employee. This search also includes a widescreen plus criminal background check and a national sex offender search, and will also include full adjudication. What's adjudication? Well, that's the pass-fail, which we'll get to shortly. All things can be done online, and the information available around the clock. There is also extensive customer support for the agents, which will be provided by HireRight. So what we have to do, we have to set up agent profiles with HireRight. Beginning tomorrow, HireRight will be contacting all of the agent users in our system. They will be obtaining permission to set up accounts for each individual location. They will also implement the adjudication process. Once all the accounts are set up, they will HireRight will release the EWS program, that's the employee-wide search program, out to all the agents. An announcement letter will be sent out with a link to the landing page. Each agent will have its landing page, which will allow them to enter and retrieve background data on their employees. HireRight will also conduct training webinars for the agents to assist them in using their website. It is relatively easy to use. Now let's talk about the adjudication. We are using the same background standards we use for our drivers, which were established by Vanliner. Since this excludes drivers specifically, this applies to non-driver personnel only. Those standards are no felonies within the last 3 years, no more than 1 felony is allowed on the entire record, no violent or anti-personnel convictions, no crimes of moral turpitude, which includes any sex crimes, and no more than 3 misdemeanor convictions in 10 years. Also, the employee cannot be currently on probation. Stevens will only need to access actual background checks if there is an incident. All we will get from HireRight and from the agent is a pass-fail, whether the employee has met these guidelines. Next slide. We have set up in the Stevens SVO online system a screen for agents to enter this data on their employees. It will be called the driver helper entry. Next slide, please. The screen will include the driver information and the record of clearance from HireRight with a reference number and the employee identification. Once that data is entered into our screen, we will know that that agent employee has appropriate clearance to be on the job and has been screened. Question?
John, I have a question. Will we be utilizing HireRight's identification or will we be assigning Stevens identification on these helpers? And
the employee number will be the background check data will include a file number or a clearance number from HireRight. Stevens will assign an employee number tied to that agent.
okay, all right, great, thanks.
See if there's spot for a certificate number there, which we'll get from HireRight.
Yeah, that is your clearance number that the person has passed the background screening criteria.
Thank you.
These screens indicate the steps to go through. It should be relatively straightforward. And again, this applies to agent employees only, not drivers. If you might ask, why not drivers? Drivers are already currently screened if they are Stevens qualified. By federal regulation, driver screening requires additional safety and performance and drug and alcohol testing history that we are not required to get on non-driving personnel. So this does not apply to Stevens drivers. Stevens drivers, any Stevens qualified driver already has a full background check. So what do you have to do? You will need to set up your agent account with HireRight. They will be contacting you directly to do that. They have assigned a person to our account to get this underway. The entire process of setting up the account, getting permission slips out, releasing the program to the agent, setting up the landing page, and the training webinars, they estimate to take approximately 4 weeks. We would like to have this program up and running as soon as the accounts are active. We would like to set a target date no later than April 1st that all accounts are fully current and active with the screening process. We fully anticipate this to be done sooner than that. Some perspective here, a single example of why background checks are so important. There's a specific national account that booked 275 shipments for an invoiced amount of $2.1 million. 1.8 million of the 2 million stayed within the Stevens van line family. Of the 275 shipments, only about 80 of those were done last year because Stevens was put on probation because we didn't have the background checks for the national account, and more are moving in this direction. I think we all know that most of the industry has adopted a helper screening process of one form or another. HireRight, by the way, is the industry leader and has many of the major van line customers already in place and currently active, and they are especially knowledgeable about working with agents. By far, they have the largest number of agent customers of any of the vendors that we contacted. This program is a benefit. It shouldn't be a chore. We should look at the good business that this will generate by having properly screened and background check personnel in the home. And this is an investment for the future. I'm sure there are lots of questions. Judy, do you have anything?
Greg, we got some
Yeah,
questions.
we got one question out here. Does this apply to all agency personnel or only ones that are used on Stevens shipments?
This applies to any agent employee, note I said employee, that is used on a Stevens shipment. If they're not used on a Stevens shipment, it would not be required, but they can't be on a Stevens shipment without the background check. I think it would be a good business practice to have all of your employees background screened.
Yeah, I'll add to that, John. Many of you have sales folks who sell multiple product lines. So you may be an O&I salesperson in the morning, and you may be doing a COD quote in the afternoon. So that person would need to have a background check, a Stevens background check.
Okay, we've got another question, and that is what happens if they're doing a job in an area where there aren't any Stevens agents around to get help from?
That's a good question. We would need to obtain background checks verification from the non-Stevens agent, but they would not be in this program. This program is exclusive to Stevens Van Lines agents.
Well, one thing for sure is we know that our competitors have already enforced the background check within their own van line system. So when your driver or your operations folks are setting up labor from an agent, a non-Stevens agent, request background checks. And if someone cannot provide you with that, then you need to call into Central Operations and we'll work with you from there.
Okay. Will there be a way to verify background checks on labor the driver picks up from a Stevens agent?
Yes, they will be in the Stevens system and have a Stevens ID number.
What if we've already performed our own background checks?
That's a good question. We really need to get a single source that ensures both the scope and quality of the work that was done. We need to know that it was adjudicated against the standards that we've set, and that the scope of the background check that was done is the same level and quality that HireRight is offering. The difficulty in managing multiple sources is that we are unable to assure that quality across the board, which is why we've selected a single quality and cost-effective vendor for the process. Judy?
Yes?
Well, John, one thing for sure is that when you work with a program on a national scale, you need to have consistency to the standards on why the program was put in place to begin with. So the effective management of the program, we know for a fact that anything like this, when you single source it, then the success of your program just increases. It's impossible for us as a van line to be dealing with 50 different various background checks. I mean, that's just the bottom line on that. And that's why we have made, just like for our qualified drivers, we work with, the van line works with one background program. We are going to do the same with the agent employee background program.
Okay, I got Bill Forrester. You got your hand up there. Can you talk to us?
Okay, Bill.
Yep, try it again.
Can you hear me or not?
Yeah, we got you now.
Okay. Question is temp help. How do you handle the temporary labor situation? Obviously, we won't have background checks. We probably won't know in the morning until that person gets here. Do we run a background check on him when he gets here?
Bill, if they're not employees of your organization and they're not on your payroll, it's not necessary. It would be a good thing to do, but it is not part of the program. If they are employees and are on your payroll, then yes.
Hey, I might add to that too, Bill. I know that many of our agents use Labor Ready, or a source of labor where they use the same people all the time because you end up training them. We can and will run a background check on that individual so that we have it in our system.
Okay, and that's fine. Like I said, I'm just looking at the onesie twosies. But if they're not an employee, it's okay to use them.
Well, again, this program is limited to that. I'm sure that the intent is to have all employees that are agent employees on Stevens jobs fully background checked. In the case of casual labor, I know that's going to be problematic, especially if they're not employees. My direction on that is I would put the casual labor on a job other than Stevens. until
Yeah,
such time as the background check is obtained. We want to be able to go out to our national accounts with the assurance that everyone on that job has been properly screened.
And you're saying national accounts. Is this really just for national accounts? If a driver comes in and is loading a COD or he's delivering a COD, using the casual labor on that would be okay?
No, I put the national account in because that's what our request for proposal requirements are asking for. But no, it should be on every Stevens job, and a COD customer is just as entitled to have thoroughly background screened personnel as a national account or any other customer. So no, I would not say that. I would say all accounts. I mentioned national accounts because that was one of the driving forces in getting us to get this program underway. But it certainly should apply to all Stevens traffic.
Yeah, and Bill, that is our goal, but we also understand, too, that military bases now have some pretty strict regulations that eventually will require some form of a background check, not just a picture ID of the individuals coming on the bases. So we see the military eventually moving to probably the full-fledged background check like the third-party companies has. And then by the time you reach that point, that's going to take care of the COD marketplace probably at the same time.
You just brought up a good point. If these guys are checked and they're clear, wouldn't it be a good idea for them to have picture IDs?
You know, we had some lengthy discussions here on how we could mass produce a ID for your employee that has their picture as well as a certification number on it. I know that in the past, Stevens has said, and in today's world now with the high tech even more advanced, you could send us a picture of your employee and then we could make up a number of photo IDs with the name of your company as an agent for Stevens Van Lines on it. So we are looking into that because we know that not everybody has the capability within their office to produce that type of ID.
Yeah, I think the customers would appreciate that.
Right. And I know we discussed, do you put it on a lanyard around their neck, do you put it on a clip on their button, and my fact is you put it in a wallet because they present it when they knock on the door, because any place else they're going to lose it and you'll be replacing them 9,000 times. We do need to get with marketing on that in terms of
Good observation,
yeah.
Bill.
Good points.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, we have an agent that already has a higher rate program, and all their employees have had full background checks. Is SBL requiring us to still have a separate account through SBL? Will we need to pay for all of that again?
If they're already higher right, I believe they can roll that information directly into our system.
But it would be important that John, that we don't know what qualifications or guidelines for qualifications that agent has with higher rights. I mean,
we would have to review that with the higher right people because they do have to adjudicate against something. So we'd have to find out what standards those was. If they're compatible with ours, I believe that information, higher right has that information can roll directly into our system.
My state has very employee-friendly laws existing relative to privacy and other employee issues. Is higher right responsible for making sure all the laws in my state are being met?
Yes, by contract they are. You are also responsible for doing with your own employees the Fair Credit Reporting Act notifications. A document will be obtained from the employee to allow the background check to go forward. Higher right will do the adjudication. In the event of an unsuccessful application, the agent would be responsible for notifying their employees under Fair Credit Reporting Act why and wherefore why they were not accepted. and that would fall to the agent because that person is an agent employee. There are forms available for that online at Stevens as well as through HireRight.
Okay, Brian, I'd like to confirm that HireRight is going to contact him and that
Yes.
he doesn't need to.
Yes, the agents will be contacted beginning tomorrow. The agents, we have provided all the contact information. We have a webinar set up at headquarters with HireRight tomorrow to get the ball rolling on this program. They are very interested in our business and have done this with other van lines and other agents. Again, one of the reasons why they were selected is their familiarity with the van line agency relationship. They have done it with a lot of the other carriers who have a large agent representation and done so successfully by all accounts. I think we will enjoy working with them. Again, they are the market leader in this particular service.
John, just to clarify this a little bit, will they be contacting them via a telephone call? And does HireRight have the main contact at our agent who they should be asking for?
We have provided them that information.
We have.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, John, we got probably about 4 or 5 questions here, all basically the same thing. And again, I guess we need to reiterate that this is for all employees of the company that need to be checked.
That's right.
And that unfortunately, we know that that can't always be the case, and that sometimes casual labor will be used, or one question addressed labor ready. You know, we're still expecting people to have to use labor ready because during the summer months, everybody knows there's a shortage of labor. What happens if you have an employee that's been around for a long time but happened to have a problem in the last year and maybe on probation? Is there a way to get that employee cleared from his or her work history?
We could take that offline on an individual basis, but the published standards from Vanliner specifically exclude employees that are currently on probation. I think we can manage the exceptions. The idea, I think, behind this is to get the big program rolling and get as many people background checked and cleared so they can go on the job with the assurance that we know who we're sending out there.
Okay, I've got someone that asked if we'd set the what we're checking for or what the standards are.
Yeah, that's a couple slides back there, Greg.
By the way, this presentation will be posted tomorrow on SBL Online. Is that correct, Kurt? Yeah. Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay. So Stevens TV, really? High def TV, Jeff?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so
there are the standards on the screen right there. Again, these are the same Vanliner driver and also for corporate employee standards that we've used for many years, and they have not really changed very much. No felonies within the last 3 years, no more than 1 felony on the record, et cetera, as indicated on the screen. This also gives us consistency. We can't say we apply one set of standards to one person and a different set to another, so that also protects us in the event that someone wants to file a complaint that they were unfairly treated. We would, wherever possible, we want to enforce the same standards from one person to the next, so to give them an equal opportunity at employment.
John, I'd like to know if certain people are grandfathered. For instance, this agent has a salesperson that's been with them for over 15 years.
There's no provision for grandfathering. We want everyone with direct customer contact who's an agent employee. That's the scope of this program as we're rolling it out. We may tweak it at a later date, but we think this is a great place to start to get some consistency and quality and accuracy in background check reporting.
Here's a good one, John. Is there an appeal process?
I don't know. I'm not sure if this is a public court of appeals or what. I mean, this is a background check that our customers have mandated, beginning with our corporate customers. Our competitors have mandated this, and we want to swim in that pool. We need to know how to swim, and we need to play by the industry rules.
So, Jim, I can think of one instance off the top of my head that has come up fairly often before, and that's some states are now counting failure to pay child support as a felony. And in those instances, we have went through a review process on it. So to be honest with you, I don't know how we're going to handle that in the future, but
I think we can work with the exceptions, something like that, because I don't think there'll be that many, and I think we can always apply a reasonableness standard to it. But I think the main thrust of this is to get the program rolling and in place for the bulk of the people, have a consistent standard, a consistent background check, and consistent results.
And you know, Greg, you're right, because one of the major things that we have a problem with is when the driver is pulled over at a scale for an inspection, and they run their driver's license, and the child support is a major shutdown situation. Boy, that seems to be one thing that the states now have, the reciprocity on. And so child support is a biggie, but it's not just a hurdle for Stevens to overcome. It's for our entire industry that has to overcome that.
This agent has an account set up through another van line. Should the background checks be the same for Stevens?
Through another van line. I don't know how we could use that information unless we could obtain, if it was is it through HireRight with another van line or just another van line? Well, unless we were able to obtain the information, I would not, wouldn't have a good answer for that one. I don't see how we could get the information from the other van line, because we would, by contract, we're not permitted to share this information outside of our van line and agent family. This is
right.
all, by the way, this is all confidential information that is kept in-house between the agent and the employee and between the van line and the agent. And HireRight is bound to confidentiality in all of their contractual dealings with both Stevens and all of our agents.
And again, remember that we don't access this. The headquarters would only access these background checks if there's an incident which would require it.
Okay, they just came back and said that their account is through HireRight, although another van line.
I'd have to contact HireRight to find out if that information could be released. They may have an exclusivity clause in their contract, as we do, that would prevent that. So we'd have to check with HireRight to see if that information could be shared. Good question. I'd have to check with them. And in our webinar tomorrow with the HireRight, we're adding this to our list of questions.
Okay, does the employee have to agree to have the background check done?
Yes, they do. Under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, FCRA, they sign a release which allows a third party, in this case HireRight, to perform the background check. That's a federal statute.
John, what if the agent wanted to charge the employee for the background check?
That would be between the agent and the employee. We would have nothing to say about it.
Seeing as this does not include drivers, does Stevens have another outfit that performs background checks on drivers?
We are currently using Raymond Corporate Investigative Services for that. That's under review. We've used Raymond for many years. The driver background screening includes a lot of federally required items beyond what you would need for a non-driver, such as safety, performance history, drug and alcohol testing, verification of employment, and a lot of other things. We're currently using the Raymond Company, have for a number of years. They do good quality work. we periodically review them against other vendors for possible future alternative sources for that. But yes, the Raymond Company has been doing that for a number of years for us. And that's all agent and corporate drivers alike use the same background check.
Okay, does this apply to office personnel?
Those in contact with the direct contact with the customer, such as a sales person, estimator, but we have not included in the scope such as accountants or bookkeepers or receptionists or those type of people.
Now, I would suggest to you that if you have a dispatcher in operations, that I'm sure with job inspections and what have you, you need to make sure that that individual is background checked and has the appropriate picture IDs. Warehouseman.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone that you could eventually put in that house is what we're talking about.
Direct customer contact was our benchmark here.
What about third-party services? Do they need to make sure they are background checked?
My understanding is MSS already has a full background check on all of their service providers. I'm not sure about the other ones, but I believe they've all incorporated that. I know MSS does. Have to check. That's the only one that I know very well.
This is a good point here at this point to bring up. I know many of our agents may use a packing contractor or a local contractor, and they will have to go through this higher right background check because they're representing Stevens and going in the home.
Okay, Chris, I see you have your hand up. Can you talk to us? Well, must have been a mistake. Oh, okay, now try it.
Am I unmuted?
Yep, now you're set.
All right. So we run the background check, say a year down the line. We've got somebody who's already into the system. They did something stupid during the winter. They get their third misdemeanor. How often are we running this check? How updated is it? Is it something we're paying for every year?
Initially, we have set it up to rerun every 3 years. That was driven by some account requirements, but we thought that a fairly prudent interval and not too onerous on the agents. 3 years is our interval, and we thought that a reasonable period of time for the so you wouldn't have to be rerunning it all the time.
Thank you.
Okay, how will interagency shipments work?
What does that mean?
Well, I guess we're talking, you know, if one agent calls the other and gives them a job to do, but I'm sure the answer is, as far as we're concerned, it's whether or not the shipment is moving on Stevens Van Line's authority.
Greg, you're exactly right. If it says Stevens Van Line's authority shipment, we want cleared and screened personnel on it.
If there is an issue and we had non-checked labor on the job, does it increase our liability?
That'd be a good question for John Zink. I think intuitively, I think, you know, it would certainly open you up to more liability, but I don't know if anything is stated. Judy, is there anything in the policy and procedure along those lines? I don't think we've ever addressed it.
Not addressed it.
Well, you have different forms of liability. You know, if you fail to train people properly to lift, you have liability associated with your workman's comp. If you put an individual in a home that has that just is on parole or just was released from prison, you increase your liability of issues. So when you talk about do we have increased liability, we have increased liability all the way around.
Okay, any other questions out there?
Boy, lots of good feedback. Lots of good feedback. I believe this is a beneficial and worthwhile program, a worthwhile initiative. It'll put us on the same plane as everyone else, and maybe a little bit better, because we think the quality of this program will be very high, and give us, good results, and I think we're going to see that it will benefit everyone.
Okay, Jake, I see you got your hand up. Can you hear us? Jake Mickens?
Hello, Jake.
Must be a mistake. Do the owners of an agency have to be checked?
At this time, unless they have direct customer contact, no. Anyone with direct customer contact.
Yeah, we've got someone out there who wants to know if Jim Welsh will be able to pass his background check, because I heard he is a Chicago Bears fan. You're right. I think we're going to have to give him a waiver to keep him around.
That's true. No, I'm okay, I think.
Okay, if we run under another authority but have our driver's background checked through HireRight, do they still have to be checked through the Stevens account? Or
If they're running under another authority,
Wait a minute here. Hold on.
let me get a clarification. If they're not running under Stevens' authority.
Who's asking that question? Do we know who's asking that question? Bring it over to the left so we can see the name on there.
Pam.
Pam. Can we talk to Pam?
Let's see here. Pam.
I'm not following the question. If they're running under someone else's authority, why would we even be involved in it? I just don't make a connection.
Pam, do you happen to have a microphone? If you're on a laptop maybe or something, you could talk to us?
Are we on there?
Apparently.
Contact John separately.
Apparently not. Okay, she does not.
Are you
eventually going to include drug testing for helpers as well?
Not yet, but that's not on the agenda at this time. Right now, we're limiting it to background checks. I think it's certainly a good, positive first step. I know some industries will also require drug testing. I don't think we're there yet, but let's see how this works.
Okay, how can you prevent agencies from calling all their helpers casual labor? To be honest with you, we probably can't, but I'd hate to see everybody run afoul of the IRS, because if an individual works on any type of regular basis for you, you're responsible to withhold taxes and report him as an employee. So it's, we can't force you to do anything, but there's always someone farther down the line that might try to take their whacks at you.
Well, Greg, if an agent provides or directs an individual to work with a driver, it's that driver's responsibility to get that individual's information so the driver can send that person a 1099. We'll go on.
Yeah, that's true in some cases. Who's responsible to make sure the help hired from a destination has been checked?
Well, if it's a Stevens agent, they would be in the Stevens system, and that would be available through the SVL info website. You'd be able to see it.
Okay. Is casual labor allowed on Stevens shipments?
It is our desire to have only Stevens screen personnel on the job. We know casual labor applies, and we haven't applied this to casual labor at an agent location. I guess that's something that we will have to deal with as we go forward. We know casual labor exists, especially in the summertime. I think it's something that we're just going to have to manage.
Let me take a stab at that one, John. Yeah, we obviously have been pointed in the direction of the background checks because our marketplace is starting to demand it. So we also know that many of us have college students that work for us during the summer. And I think what's going to happen here, because as you implement a program, it's never going to get 100% completed your first time around. So that you'll end up putting your non-background check people on accounts for sure that we know do not require a background situation. We know that you have part-time help that works for you during the peak season. You know, so I mean, obviously our goal is to have 100% background checked agent employees in the home, and that's our goal. And I don't think we should never lose sight of what our goal is. But let's be realistic out there. You know, we're going to end up putting our background check people, I'm sure, first on our corporate moves that require it. The only matter of time for the military requires that type of business. And then once the word gets really out there in the marketplace, you know, and your competitors start forcing you because they're going to start selling all of our labor in this home, you know, Mr. Private, Mrs. Private Consumer will be background check. Make sure that Stevens can produce that. So we will be, you know, obviously our competition in our marketplace will drive the ultimate outcome, which is 100% any agent employee, any service provider in the home of a Stevens Stevens customer is background checked. So, you know, there's always a certain amount of common sense that needs to get applied to anything when you're rolling out a new policy and procedure.
That's an excellent observation, Jim. Again, one of the reasons that 100% goal is attainable, I think, for many of the agents will be that it's online. It's relatively quick, a quick turnaround, 24 to 48 hours in most locations. It's reasonable in cost, and you have verifiable results in your hand in a short order. So there's really not a reason to not background check the people that you have working for you. We've made it as seamless and timely as possible.
Steve Grennan wanted to know basically if he can go in and see if an individual who works for another agent has been background checked. And my understanding is, yes, you'll be able to go and see that. It'll display the individual's name and the certificate number of the background check. In some instances, like with XYZ Corporation that's handled through our Move Center, I anticipate the Move Center coordinator on the job might even call, ask who's being assigned to go on that job, and entering the certificate number in the notes on the Move screen, so that in the event the account calls and wants to know who's out there, that we can pass that information along. Okay, anybody else? We did have one person ask if the owners of the company are required to be background checked, and the answer is anybody who's going to be in contact with the customer and the residents does need to be background checked.
Okay, if there are no more questions, Greg, you got another one? All right, if there are no more questions, you've been great participants, great questions. Thank you for attending. I want to remind everyone that you'll be contacted individually by HireRight within the next few weeks, beginning as early as tomorrow, and they will provide training, including webinar training. So thank you very much for attending. Anything else, John, that you want to add?
No, I want to echo your thanks to the very active participation and good feedback we've gotten. I think this is, again, a tremendously beneficial program, and I think it's in everybody's best interest that we get this thing rolling.
Thank you.